Welcome to my first long-form video. Today I want to discuss the Livonia, Avon, and Lakeville Railroad's Locomotive Purge, as I like to call it, and talk about what has been happening with a little history. Before we begin, I want to touch on the history of LAL and its subsidiaries. Livonia, Avon, and Lakeville Railroad was first founded in 1964 as a tourist railroad operating on the former Erie and later Erie-Lackawanna trackage. Later in 1976, they would start interchanging freight with Conrail at Avon, and in 1996 would start interchanging at Genesee Junction. The line is best known for being one of the last holdouts of Alco locomotives, particularly the Century Series, which were some of the last units built by Alco in the 1960s. LAL also has three subsidiaries that also operate in New York State. Those include Bath and Hammondsport, Western New York and Pennsylvania, and Ontario Midland. All three have an entirely Alco roster except for WMYP, but we'll get into that shortly. Now let's talk about what's happened so far. In 2019, WMYP purchased 8 former CSX D-rated AC6000 CWs from Progress Rail. These units have taken over service from the old Alco and MLW MC630s and MC636s that have operated on the line since 2001, when WNYP took over. As early as 2024, some of these 4-axle units are still in service, since some of the early cleanout, but we will get into that in a little bit. In December 2021, Ontario Midland received an M420 from the West Tennessee Railroad, and it was numbered 3560. Now we get to 2023 to 2024, where changes were happening on a weekly basis. First, in early 2023, BH416 and RS18U was shipped to LAL from Cohocton to be used as LAL's new switcher. Next, on July 13, 2023, WMYP 406 and RS3M, rebuilt by the Delaware and Hudson, was transported to Arcade on its own power, where it now operates freight on the Arcade in Attica. Later, around July or August 2023, WMYP transferred 417 and RS18U to Ontario Midland. Next, on September 5th, 2023, some of the 6-axles on WMYP were sold to GVT to be used on Delaware-Lackawanna trackage. On November 2nd, 2023, LAL announced that they would be receiving funding for 6 new locomotives to replace the Alcos. A few days later, on November 5th, 2023, LAL donated LAL 72 and S2 switcher, along with some old Mo rolling stock, to the Rochester and Genesee Valley Railroad Museum. This is the first unit preserved by LAL since LAL 20 and RS1 in October 2016. Around December 2023, former BH416, then lettered for LAL, started switching in Lakeville. I don't really know what it did in Lakeville, as it didn't work much when it was there, but we'll get into that. Jumping to the week of February 11th to the 17th, of 2024, when Ontario Midland sent Metallico to scrap Ontario Midland 3 and Ontario Midland 35, both S4s. Ontario Midland 3 caught fire on February 11th and was nothing but the bottom by the 12th. On February 19th, B&H agreed with Flower by Rail Legacy Project that they would donate LAL 14 and S2 if the group could raise enough funds to move the unit off property. The group has partnered with the New York and Lake Erie Railroad to store the unit once it's back home. Not long after, in the days before February 27th, LAL sent Metallico down to Lakeville to cut up and scrap LAL 418 and RS 36 that suffered from a bent frame, and LAL 319, a C424 that was being used as a part source. On March 14th, the Department of Transportation released the amount of funding each railroad would receive. LAL would receive $3 million towards a new locomotive. Also in that funding was a transload facility to be built in Avon. On April 1st, LAL 428, a C425, suffered a career-ending fire right by the Rochester and Genesee Valley Railroad Museum on the return trip to Lakeville. It was returned to Avon and later Lakeville the next day. Backtracking to March 2024, where it was rumored that the AC6000 CWs were leaving WMYP. That rumor was true, and on May 28th, WMYP 6000, 6003, 6007, and BH 6006 arrived in Meadville. These were non-operational units and were heading to GE in Erie. On June 12, Ontario Midland shipped M420-3560 to Delaware Lackawanna. It is unknown why they got rid of the unit. As stated earlier, it was acquired back in 2021. As of fall 2024, it is under lease with the New York Susquehanna and Western, working in Binghamton and Ridgefield Park. On June 18th, 4 GP-15-1s were spotted in Illinois with WMYP patch marks. These units, numbered 1501 to 1504, are ex-UPY and were built for the MOPAC. 2 out of the 4 units were spotted in Elkhart on July 25th en route to WMYP. The next day, LAL 416, now laddered for Ontario Midland, left Lakeville en route to Sodus. It arrived on July 29th. On August 5th, WMYP started to ship C424-426 to LAL in Lakeville. It arrived on August 13th. On August 28th, it started revenue service on LAL, and yours truly was there to witness it. So, why does it matter? Why should you care about this? Well, if you're a rail fan like me, you should realize that things are changing constantly, even for a short one like LAL. New management is changing how things operate. It happened on other railroads, from Conrail in the 1980s to Arkansas and Missouri very recently. I'm hoping with this video that you go out and railfan LAL or one of its subsidiaries before it's too late. As of this upload, there is still time, but if WMYP likes their GP15s, then they're going to stay. The truth is that you'll wish that you got more footage of GVOs when they're retired. I've already seen it with Dash 9s.